I was breaking down mentally, so I was like, you know what, let me give some people the reality of the sport. Now, don't I want to vent publicly, and so I made my own YouTube series called Inside Team Shorty, which I'll be starting again on Monday for season 2. But one of the episodes I was talking about, besides the mental game and the nervousness and this and that, was Ben Askren being traded from ONE FC to the UFC, and DJ after his loss against Cejudo being traded from the UFC to ONE FC. And I go, guys, everyone is talking about the trade, but no one's talking about the bigger picture here, and that's Dana White said he wanted to cut the flyweight division when we had the best champion in UFC's history
Yeah.
in it, still active, still winning before he lost. And now that he's gone, who do we have? We don't have a Conor McGregor. We don't have a Colby Covington. We don't have someone that's a hype train. Like the
Hmm.
UFC never ever invested their time and money into promoting somebody else besides DJ. And they barely ever even did that. So
Yeah.
when I post that video, I shared it. Little I know, BJPen.com is sharing it. Flow Combat is sharing it. MMA Junkie is sharing it. And all these other big, social media feeds for MMA are sharing it. Ariel Hawani had me on the show talking about it. And out of nowhere, I get a call from the UFC and they're like, oh, no, 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 we're not cutting the flyweight division. And then 3 days later, I get a call again. All right, we are cutting the flyweight division. 3 days later, here are your release papers. And it's like, whoa,
Wow,
whoa,
dude.
whoa! I don't get any choice. Plus, half my wins are at the bantamweight division. Like, let me bump up, and if I lose, then okay, you have every right to cut me. That's 2 in a row. They kind of do that naturally,
Yeah.
and I get from both McMahon and John Shelby. They go, well, let's look at your last 2 fights. You had a lucky win, and you got destroyed your last fight. You look like crap. So why are we going to keep you? And it's like, because I had 4 fights in my contract, but they never let me bump up, nor did I have the chance to, in a sense, redeem myself. Again, I had 45 days to lose 54 pounds with
Yeah.
2 ultimatums in those fights of going, if you don't take this fight, you're possibly not fighting until the end of the year, which is another 6 months, or not fighting until next year, which could not mean January, it could mean next December. So if I would have really looked at the bigger picture and been a little more patient, I probably should have said no, and woulda, shoulda, coulda. That's all I could really say now. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, I was given the ultimatum, and I ended up suffering my first defeat because of it. But I ended up sadly, I believe, fast tracking the cut of the flyweight division, because immediately when I was released, I go, well, yeah, I'm gonna post about it. Might as well
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
make it public, and I did. Ariel Hawani had me on the show again, Luke Thomas, all these guys, and I put it out there, and then the next day I got hit up by all these promotions. But then the next day I see, after the promotions hit me up, Justice Scoggins got released, Jared Brooks got released, and there ended up being so many more that if they had a loss or your contract just ended, you're gone. And it's sad because only a select few were allowed to bump up, but coincidentally, those select few have either come from Legacy, LFA, RFA. They're Texas guys, and
Yeah.
well, if they're Texas guys, they're McMaynard's guys. So most guys are either from Texas or butt buddies of McMaynard, and that's the hard part. And so what people have been doing in the flyweight division, they're not just fighting to fight to make money; they're fighting literally to keep their contract, to stay alive. And I mean, you even look at the most recent one, Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz lost to Joseph Benavidez. That was literally a title contender fight,
Yeah.
and you lose. You're number 3. You lose and you're cut. That was a really close fight. I believe that was 29-28. So
It's
uh, I
crazy,
don't,
dude. I
I
mean,
don't, I don't see what the problem is. But they ended up cutting us anyways.
yeah. I mean, that was my thing when watching the Cejudo Dillashaw fight. We'll talk more about Dillashaw and his crap, but like Cejudo, I'm not, I don't dislike any of these guys. I want to put that out there before I put my criticisms out there because like I've never met any of them. I don't know them. And I probably would get along with every single one of them if I had a conversation. Um,
Mhm.
but when Cejudo was saying the entire Dillashaw fight that he's fighting for the flyweights, he's doing all this for the flyweights. I didn't, I didn't believe it because I knew that if he beat Dillashaw, he was going to bantamweight. We all know he was going to bantamweight, and
Mhm.
I mean because Dana White's been talking for months now that he's going to cut the flyweight division because they weren't making him any money, and when you have the biggest guy who's there now, just beat Demetrius Johnson, who was dominant for years upon years. Um, when you see Johnson go, it really put a perspective in for me. When I saw the guy who's been dominant for years and years and years get traded, and I was like, oh shit, something's gonna happen, And then Cejudo was like, I want, and then Dillashaw came down and won the fight, and then Cejudo took it, and then he's like, I'm fighting for the flyweights. It just, to me, it was like, it seemed more of a scapegoat to me for him to be able to get an excuse to go up to bantamweight next and stay at bantamweight so he can have, a safe little thing for the contract, which, I get it. I get what he's doing it. I just, it just looked a little weird to me during the press conferences and everything leading up to it.
It's it's one of those things that when DJ got traded, it was smart. I mean, you look at it, how many times he's been a main event, in the UFC. I believe it was only twice, maybe 3 times. The only other main event in flyweight history was Pettis and Moreno, and that was in Mexico City. Two Latino fighters that were being showcased, and Sergio Pettis won, but then he lost to Benavidez, and there went all the hype. And that's what the UFC was really banking on, was to get another Pettis at the top. And so be it. Some things happen, and that just didn't work out in their favor. But the thing is, they never wanted to invest their time. A fighter, you look at it now, it's like even Colby Covington and how even Conor McGregor, they have their pedestal, and so far they did 50% of the work, but they need the other 50%. And that's the UFC. It's like a relationship. They need the UFC to promote them as well. If the UFC is not going to promote them, then no one cares. Honestly, the average fan of the UFC, no matter what the UFC says, if they go, hey, Colby Covington is amazing, they're going to say Colby Covington's amazing. They're going to say CM Punk is going to be a world champ. Everyone's going to say CM Punk's going to be a world champ.
Definitely, like when Conor threw that dolly and everything like that. You're like, I'm a huge Conor fan. Everyone knows I'm a huge Conor fan, but him throwing the dolly was wrong. It was wrong on every, you don't bring it to that level. And the UFC, clearly they said it was wrong, it's disgusting, but then they used it in promotion. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're condemning this kind of stuff. They're taking all the bad stuff, bring it up. But I get what you're saying when the UFC needs to do half the work, because they do. Dana White's a promoter. It's his job. His job's to promote and make fights. When a fighter is trying to make a name for themselves, like you have an amazing record. You've done your part, and you lose one fight out of your 2, but you're taking them on very short notice, the second one. He's not, I guess he's not looking at it from a fire perspective, in my point of view. You know what I mean? He looks at it from a money point of view, which I get he does have to, at the end of the day. But also, these fighters are fighting for their livelihood. They're fighting for food on the table. They're fighting for their thing. Whether they get a quick butt, they're fighting for what they have. So I just, I think he needs to, take a quick step back and look at what's happening. Because Benavidez, again, as you said, Benavidez is, one of the all-time greats, in my opinion. And he just often is overlooked by a lot of casual fans and promoters.
Yeah, and he's he's a veteran that's been in WEC and beat some great guys there, and now in the UFC. And it's just one of those things that, again, Dana White has to do what he has to do, and that's fine. But then you have, at least for me, my I wouldn't say hatred, because hatred is an extremely strong word, but my dislike is not against Dana White, because that's his promotion. Look where the UFC's at now. It's the biggest promotion in the world, or at least most popular, because of what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
But it's who he's hired as the guys who pretty much run everything, the contracts, the matchmaking, all that stuff, and that's McMahon and Sean Shelby. The bigger fights are handled by Dana White, but the smaller fights of who we're going to sign, who we're going to keep, who we're going to get rid of, that is all McMahon and Sean Shelby, and I believe they've done a really piss poor job when it comes to certain things. Again, my resumes, when people said, DJ's never fought someone like me, I can literally say that. DJ's never fought a 2-time IMF world champ, the first ever. No one's fought a person who's right now in a 33 fight win streak. No one's fought, somebody with all this resume as an amateur, the pioneer of amateur MMA, and that was awesome. And he did call me out, which is of a possible title fight later on in the run before he lost. It's like, that's amazing. I only had one fight. That's freaking awesome. But if I was any other weight class, I would have been signed and I would have been given a very, very nice contract.
Of course.
But I was signed to a very
think about it from like
featherweight.
Featherweight, featherweight and lightweight are arguably the two most competitive weight divisions right now. If you were in lightweight and you came in with the resume you have now, Dana White would be all over it. You know what I mean? It would be a huge contract for 5 or 6 fights, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. It'd be crazy. And it would be almost guaranteed promotion every time as well.